What's up? I'm going to do a review today of my truck. I've had it for about 2 years. It's a 2007 Dodge Ram 1500. It's got four-wheel drive. I've got 82,000 miles on it. I've had it for 2 years. I've put about 22,000 miles on it myself. And I should have done this video during the day, but it's night, and I'm just going to talk and hopefully you can hear me. Shouldn't be too loud in here. I guess I'll find out in a little bit. But there's a couple things about this truck. Make sure no one's coming. The difference, the biggest question that people have is it worth getting this versus the 5.7 liter for gas mileage or towing or anything like that? Like, does it really make that big of a difference? Well, personally, I've noticed a difference in gas mileage for sure. This truck gets about, I don't drive anything crazy, and I get about, let's see what I'm getting. I get about 14 miles a gallon driving around the city, and I've driven a couple Hemis, and when I drive those things around, four-wheel drive too, I get probably around 10 or 12. So I mean, it is a little bit different. You'll get a little bit better gas mileage in this, but honestly, if you're in the market for a truck, it's not that big of a difference. Performance, this thing's definitely slower. It's not like super slow by any means, but it's definitely slower than the Hemi. Four-wheel drive works great. Everything works great. I've not had any problems with this truck. It's got a rebuilt title, so it's been in a wreck before, but I still haven't had any problems. All I've had to do is replace the spark plugs, just get a quick tune-up. That's not too hard. Oil changes, tire rotations, just general stuff. Nothing too bad. There's a lot about this truck that would actually surprise you. Like, for one, it's a kind of a small thing, but there aren't really any uses in this truck. Around this time, Dodge, or Chrysler, I guess, decided that they were going to get a lot more advanced with the vehicles they're building, and oh, that guy's kind of pulled out a little bit. And instead of a fuse box on the inside and a fuse box on the outside with like 40, 80, some stupid number of fuses, this truck's only got like 15 or 20 fuses, and it has a really complicated computer that controls all the other stuff. Like, for example, putting aftermarket headlights on this thing. When you flip them on, when the computer is turned on, if it's not the exact voltage and current that factory headlights are getting, instead of blowing a fuse, it just shuts the system off. And it'll retry your system every time, and it'll just shut it off if it doesn't like it, instead of blowing a fuse. There's a lot of things like that. But it's easy to get around, just use a relay. A lot of people probably know that. Let's see. You would, just listening or like driving around town, this versus the Hemi, you really wouldn't notice a difference. It sounds really good. It's got plenty of power for just driving around. If you tow a lot, you'll definitely notice it's not the Hemi. I think this is about 120, 140 horsepower short of the Hemi. That's a pretty big gap, but it's still up there close to 250, pretty sure, close to 300 maybe. So just driving around like this, really don't notice a difference. It rides really well. The only rough riding I've ever had is if there's just holes all along the road, you just kind of keep hitting them. The back of it will kind of shimmy and bounce across the road, but I think that might just be this truck specifically, because I've never had anything do that to me before. And, oh, there's a cop back there. Let's see what else. Driving on the highway, if you're nice to this 4.7, I got the flex fuel, never use ethanol. I don't think it really makes a difference. But if you're driving down the highway and it's not too windy and you're really being nice to it, I've gotten this up to averaging 20 or 22 miles a gallon, which a lot of people don't believe me on that until I like bring them in, drive down the highway, and show them the computer when I'm done. But you can get good gas mileage with this 4.7. That's really the big reason to buy this, other than it's probably cheaper than the Hemi too. So a little bit more about my trim. I have the SLT. It's got cloth interior, power windows, keyless entry. It's got manual seats. I have the bench seat in the middle up front that the console flips up. I have a sixth seat there, which honestly it's kind of cool to have. Like the console still has a bunch of room in it. It's not as deep as the other trucks are, but it still has a good amount of room. More than anything you'll find in a little car or a SUV. But that's a pretty cool feature. It's got an automatic window just for the driver. I wish it had more, but it's not that big of a deal. This one has tow mirrors on it, which I absolutely love. Even if you don't tow a bunch, I'd recommend getting these mirrors. They have the blind spot mirror on them, which is just phenomenal for driving around, especially when there's a lot of traffic and you're just having a hard time seeing people. Or if you get this thing lifted, it'd be real hard to see little cars. I got a friend that's got an S2000, and when he pulls up next to me, if I didn't have these blind spot mirrors, I just would not see him. These huge increase in safety, and the mirrors are just so big. You can see so much. It's really nice. It's got some decent get up and go. I've got other videos on my channel where I do some kind of speed testing. I think when I did my 0 to 60, 100% stock, I got around, I think close to 9 seconds, 8 or 9 seconds, somewhere around there. Which, not surprising. I got a little bit bigger tires on this, and it's a 4.7, it was used. And I had the check engine light on at that time because there was a hole in my fuel system, so my O2 sensor wasn't liking it. Or emission sensor, not O2 sensor. That's something else. But, let's see. What else can I think? Just some little things. It has the lane change turn signals where you just slightly tap it and it clicks 3 times for you. I use that all the time. It's one of those things you don't really think about until you get it, and then you use it a lot. As far as modification goes on this, I've put a lot of aftermarket stuff onto this, mostly lights, gonna be honest. I haven't spent a huge amount of money yet. I want to make sure this is gonna be nice and last before I started lifting it or doing exhaust or anything. I just put a cold air intake on it not too long ago, and it makes a huge difference to the sound. It really does. But if you know what you're doing, this truck's pretty easy to modify. It's not really hard to open it up and get where you need to be. Actually got a lot of really neat little nooks and crannies in it, like it was made to be modified. It really does. It's really neat. Let's see. I put a cold air intake on it. That went on pretty good. And basically, the only thing you need to know for modifying this truck is don't take any shortcuts. Do everything properly. Use relays, fuses, separate switches on stuff. Because if you don't, you're going to get a check engine light, something's going to fail, you're going to blow a fuse, just because of the computer. It's super smart, but it's kind of annoying sometimes. Let's see, a couple things about the computer. It won't let your battery die just from doing something stupid, like if you leave your headlights on with the key out of the truck for a decent amount of time, then it'll shut the headlight system off by itself. Same with your interior lights. If you leave the interior lights on and you walk away for a certain amount of time, it'll turn them off for you and it won't run down your battery. It's pretty neat. Let's see. One of the features I had never seen before that I got on this truck is when you're starting it up, when you put the key in and you turn it all the way, you don't have to hold it. You just have to turn it to where the starter starts going, and then you can let go of it, and it'll start itself up. I really, really like that feature. It's really cool. I use it all the time. I hate getting in other cars. Like when I go and drive the Jeep, I hate getting into it, and I have to hold the key to get it started. It's one of those things that's just making me lazy. Let's see. This truck didn't come with fog lights on it. I put fog lights on it myself. I just kind of linked them into the headlight system. That's nothing really about this truck. I put off-road lights on it. Sound system stuff. I replaced the radio. I had the factory radio that was the single CD MP3. It had the aux jack on it, and it was a good little radio. I'm not gonna lie. I replaced all my door speakers with Kicker speakers, and that radio had no problem pushing them. Even though the fronts are rated at 450 watts and the back are 225, something like that, the radio really pushed it and held its own. And it held its own at high volumes also. Like, it got hot sometimes, but it never overheated. It did really well. Very impressed with it. But I replaced it. This radio does not come with this truck. I replaced all the lights with blue. The factory ones are that, like, just factory green that all cars have. Let's see. Cold air intake, pretty easy to install, pretty straightforward. Just be careful with the sensor and you'll be fine. If you're looking, and you have the back seat that's just one big unit like mine, or the 40-60 split, if you think it's going to make a difference, it really doesn't. I've got this single bench all the way across, and I've never wished that I had the other one. It's not really that big of a deal for me. Let's see. The cabin space, actually pretty good. Like, these Dodge quad cabs, I have the regular quad cab, not the mega cab, just the quad cab, and the back doors on these are obviously smaller than a lot of quad cab trucks are, but there's still room for fully grown adults over 200 pounds to sit. It may not be super comfortable, but they can get from one place to another without feeling super cramped. Front space, plenty. It's a truck. No surprise there. Let's see, storage space is pretty good. The glove compartment is a little small. I was kind of surprised when I opened it up how small it is. But, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I don't put stuff in there. It just kind of surprised me. The visibility out of this is pretty good. Which, if you tint your windows, it'll change. If you lift it, it'll change. But I got pretty good visibility. I don't really have that big of a deal seeing people unless they're right in my blind spot. Then it becomes a big issue, especially if they got small cars like I talked about earlier. But these blind spot mirrors on these tow mirrors really help. These trucks are pretty strong too. I've been rear-ended a couple of times by some newer cars and some older cars, and you could not tell where I've been hit. Like, I guarantee if I pulled up and said, show me where I got hit, most people couldn't find it, except that the little plug-in for the 4-prong plug-in for small trailers is bent straight down instead of pointing straight out. Otherwise, no difference. You cannot tell where I hit anything, or where anything hit me. I didn't hit anything. But, the biggest problem, let me go through problems. The biggest problem you're going to have with this truck is going to be the Dodge rust. The Dodge rust on this truck, like over the rear wheel wells, started before I bought it. Um, it had to, because about a year after owning it, it started bubbling up pretty good. And rust doesn't show up that fast. I've done a lot to take care of it. I wash it frequently in the winter, and recently I've actually put a rubberized undercoating on it, and the Dodge rust is going to show up pretty much in all these Dodges. But if you get some fender flares and you sand down the rusted spot, you spray it with some protector, you get it looking real nice, and you put a fender flare over the top of it, I think you'll be fine. I've never seen Dodge rust, even on people that don't take care of it, that's gone up higher than fender flares go on these newer model trucks. I mean, on like the 90s, yeah, they get pretty bad. But if you take care of it, it'll be fine, just like with a lot of things. See, some other problems. The front shocks on these trucks go out pretty quick. Everybody that I've seen on YouTube that does any modifying to their truck or that drives it a decent amount has had to replace the shocks. I need to replace mine. Mine are pretty bouncy. That's going to be a problem for you probably. Let's see. The tailgate's pretty heavy. It's heavier than a lot of trucks. It's not that big of a deal. Let's see. When you're looking for rust, also open the back doors and lift up the little rubber sealer. That spot gets pretty rusty pretty quick too. Mine's starting to rust there, but I caught it before it started doing anything bad. Luckily. So that's another spot to look for rust. I can't really think of that many problems I've had with this truck. My steering wheel's not straight. That's just mine. It drives really well. Like when you're just driving around town, it doesn't really drive like an old lifted truck with big old tires and the stereotype, but it doesn't drive like a car either. You can tell that it's big when you're driving around. You really can, but not too bad. It's exactly what you want driving a truck. You want to know you're bigger, but you don't want it to bother you. There we go. There's some off-road lights. Let's see. Parking in this thing, it does not turn very sharp. Not even gonna lie about that. I've driven some quad cab trucks that turn on a dime, and this one does not. It takes a pretty wide turn, even all the way turned. So be sure to check that when you're test driving, or if you got one, I'm sure you know. But if you're looking for it, go try to park it somewhere and make sure you can manage that, because I didn't think I was going to have as much trouble as I do parking this thing, just with how wide it turns. Let's see. My power steering pump went out and my water pump went out, but I think that's because it's wrecked. I don't think that's anything with the truck. I replaced front and back light housings. Pretty easy to do. I didn't have any problems with it. Really, if you got any questions, just kind of let me know. I'm just kind of rambling, just kind of talking. I don't really know what to talk about. I didn't come out with any specific goal. I just want to kind of make a video. Just a little bit of ownership about this. Being an older truck like this, insurance is not hateful. Price now is probably not going to be that hateful either, even for this one. Like, even with low miles like this, four-wheel drive, I'm sure it's not going to be that bad. Let's see. Well, if you guys got any questions, you can let me know. I'll feel free to ask anything. I'll answer as much as I can, as much as I know about, and I'll refer you to someone else if I know someone else that knows. Or if you got any questions, really just ask anything. Hopefully I'm going to be making more driving videos like this. Should be pretty good to hear what you guys think. Try to answer more questions. But yeah, I'll just kind of let you know if anything changes about this truck. But like I said, I've had it for 2 years, driven about 22,000 miles, and personally, and I love it. Even driving around here, I drive around big city like Cincinnati a lot, and driving between Cincinnati and Dayton don't have any problems. It's a really comfortable truck. I think if you're looking at buying one and you don't do a ton of towing, the 4.7 is the way to go. I'd save the 5.7 for if you have to choose between the two. If you're making a choice, 5.7 more for towing. 4.7 works literally for everything else. Even towing with this, I don't have that big of a problem. That many issues. Anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you got any questions, and I'll see you next time.